A Master of Djinn popped up on the list of new arrivals at my local library, and just with the word Djinn, I knew I had to pick this up. And let me tell you, I'm so glad I did. It takes place in an alternate history Cairo, Egypt around the early 1900s. In this version of Cairo, Egypt, Djinn and other magical creatures have, within recent history, resurfaced into our world. The entire world, not just Cairo, is kind of reeling, figuring out how to deal with all of this new stuff, magic and new intelligent life forms. It's an exciting time because the world is becoming ever more global, and magic just adds so many fun complications into the mix. And with the return of the fantastic, there are several groups of people who are starting to turn towards the old gods. Besides the Djinn, there's really only one other magical, fantastical creature that really becomes important in the story, and that is angels. But these angels are mechanical, not chibi cherub or heavenly messengers. And if I understood correctly, the angels are the main source behind the steampunkiness of the setting. That's right, it's not just an alternate history Cairo, Egypt. There's also a steampunk element into this story as well. The steampunk element is not super intense. I think the people are still kind of reeling from the existence of all of this new stuff, that they haven't really incorporated a ton of what the angels bring into play. However, they do have robots. Speaking of robots, the story calls them eunuchs, which I personally think is extremely weird. I think the idea was that they didn't have the word robots, and so they had to come up with a word to describe these creatures, and so they went with a word that seemed kind of similar to what they saw, and that was eunuchs. But really, if that was the case, I wish they just made up a word and it just happened to be robots. That would have been nice, because it was really weird and it threw me out of the story. And I honestly looked it up on the internet because I was like, am I understanding this right? That these are actually robots? And other people thought it was weird too. I generally enjoyed all of the characters, even the bad guys. In retrospect, having a little bit of time from the book, a few characters stand out and some unfortunately don't. The one that stands out the most to me is the love interest, Siti. From the moment she's introduced, you just feel her complicated, iceberg. It was really interesting to uncover the different layers of her character. The second character that really stood out to me, I can't even remember his name, but I love in fantasy stories when magic happens to somebody and that person now has to deal with those changes and those consequences. Kind of like Frodo dealing with the weight of the ring. Those changes to a person's being are super interesting to me. And this character, whose name I can't remember, is the only character really in the entire story that has something like this happening to them. And just every time they appeared on the page, I just wanted to know, what's happening now? What's happening with him? And I want to know more. I'm hoping for another book so I can learn more about this guy's changes. Some of the characters have kind of blended into the periphery of my mind. And unfortunately, one of those is the main character, Fatima. She stands out as the main character, and I enjoyed being in her skin, but especially now that I've had some space from the book, I'm realizing I didn't really have that great of a connection with her. It was a really engaging read. I don't remember it ever really feeling like it slowed down. However, I did have an issue with the end. I'll keep the spoilers mild. It just felt like the main character, once she solved the mystery, just kind of wasn't important anymore to the events that happened afterward. Besides that, it had the kind of ending where you wonder if the rest of the story you just read had any kind of significance at all. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the story and I don't regret reading it. I just wish that the ending had a little bit more punch to it. I'm curious if anyone else had this experience, so if you've read A Master of Djinn, hit me up in the comments and let me know. A Master of Djinn has 2 prequel novellas that I haven't read, so nope, you don't have to read them before you jump into A Master of Djinn. Although, I did get the vibe that they would be helpful in understanding some of the tiny details going on in the story. They referenced every once in a while some things that had happened in the past. I wondered if those references were towards events in the novella. As I did some research about the series, I saw that generally people thought the novellas were good, and they just added and enriched the entire experience of the series. Personally, I have not decided yet if I'm going to read them or not. A big part of that is that my library doesn't have them. Liking this video would definitely add some motivation. I looked all over the internet and found nothing about a continuation of this series. I really hope that there's more planned for this series. This feels to me like it could be potentially very similar to the Dresden Files, just with a very different setting and a very different vibe. Let me tell you, I am sick of Facebook ads of books that are clearly trying to copy Dresden Files, and I promise you, The Master of Djinn does not have that vibe. It does not feel like a copy of Dresden Files. And that's an awkward note to leave on, but whatever. Thanks for watching, guys. If you are down for an Arabic, Egyptian-inspired fantasies, definitely check out this video right here on the Stardust Thief. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.